court of Hastinapur stood magnificent that day. Golden pillars, polished floors, rows of kings and elders seated in silence. It was a place meant for justice. And yet, that day, justice sat quietly in a corner, uninvited. The dice lay at the center of the hall. Shakuni, uncle to the Kauravas, looked at Yudhishthira with a smile that carried no warmth. His voice was soft, almost polite, as he announced the inevitable. The game was over. Yudhishthira had lost. The eldest of the Pandavas stood frozen. A king celebrated for his righteousness, now trembling like a gambler who knew he had gone too far but could not stop himself. One by one, he had lost his wealth, his kingdom, his brothers, and even himself. And then, in a moment that would stain history forever, Yudhishthira spoke again. With his head lowered and his voice hollow, he said he wagered Draupadi. A murmur swept through the court. Some gasped, some looked away, but no one stood up. Duryodhana broke into laughter. It echoed loudly, shamelessly across the Sabha. With cruel satisfaction, he declared that Draupadi be brought into the court, so that defeat could be seen, not just declared. Soon, Draupadi was dragged in. She walked with trembling steps, her hair unbound, her sari loosely draped. She had been pulled from her private chambers into a hall filled with men who claimed honor as their virtue. Yet, when she lifted her face, there was fire in her eyes. Draupadi looked around the court, at her husbands, at the elders, at the warriors who had sworn to protect righteousness. Then she spoke. Her voice was steady, but each word cut deep. She asked them a simple question. Had Yudhishthira lost himself first, or had he lost her? The question hung in the air, like a challenge no one wished to accept. Bhishma sat there, the grandsire of the Kuru dynasty, the man who knew dharma better than anyone alive. Draupadi turned to him directly, calling him Pitama, asking him to speak the truth. Bhishma's voice, when it came, was heavy with restraint. He said that dharma in this matter was complex, subtle, difficult to judge. But the truth was simpler than that. Dharma was clear. Courage was missing. Duryodhana, growing impatient, mocked her openly. He declared that if Draupadi had been won in the game, then she was a slave, and a slave had no rights in the court of kings. Then he turned to Dusasana and ordered him to strip her. At that moment, the court failed completely. Hands reached for Draupadi's sari. The cloth was pulled, and as it happened, not one warrior rose. Not one elder intervened. Not one husband spoke. History would remember them all for that silence. Draupadi's voice finally broke, not in weakness, but in anguish. She cried out that she had asked her husbands for protection and they remained silent. She had asked the elders for justice and they lowered their eyes. Then she called out to Krishna, not as a queen, not as a wife, but as a woman who had been abandoned by human morality. She said that if Krishna did not protect her now, then the world should never again speak of dharma. And the universe listened. Krishna did not appear in form. He appeared in action. As Dusasana pulled, the cloth did not end. It kept flowing and flowing and flowing. No matter how much he struggled, Draupadi remained covered. Dusasana grew tired. His strength failed. He collapsed in exhaustion. Draupadi stood, her dignity untouched, her silence louder than any scream. The court fell silent once more, but this silence was different. It was heavy with shame. Draupadi looked around one final time and spoke again. Her voice was calm now, terrifyingly calm. She told them to remember this day. They had not insulted a single woman. They had insulted righteousness itself. And righteousness, she warned them, would answer on the battlefield. The war of Mahabharata did not begin with conch shells or arrows. It began in that court, on that day, when silence was chosen over justice. And the world has been paying for that choice ever since.